Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about finishing work. Um, as you probably are gathering, I'm pretty much an alla prima painter, so I do a painting in one sitting. And once it's done, it's done. They tend to be more sketchy because of that. They're not finished works. But I have in the past ended up doing paintings, and the one that you can see now in shot is an example of this. Where I've not finished the painting, and then I really struggle. I don't know if everybody else struggles in the same way as me, but I really struggle to go back and finish it because I actually quite like this painting. It was when I was trying to do gouache studies earlier this year, March time this year, and I really liked how it's turned out. Um, but I've since been sort of afraid to restart it because I've been doing things other than gouache since then, and I've got used to oil paints again. And if I start, then it's going to be a disaster because I won't remember the flow that I was in when I actually painted this originally. So I just wondered if other artists struggle with this. So I know a lot of artists paint day after day after day and return to paintings day after day after day. But I certainly don't seem to be able to do that very well. And it's partly because of this struggle of ruining it when I return to it, I suppose. I don't want to ruin it. So what I thought I'd do today is I haven't got a video of me painting this because it's before the video channel started, but I do have some photos of stages of its development. Um, so I thought I'd show those and how it's got to this point, and then do or try and resume the painting using gouache. And if I destroy it, I destroy it. But it'll be an interesting experiment to watch, I hope. So let's first of all have a look at the stages of how the painting got to this point in March. So the model was somebody who posed for me a couple of years ago, and I did a photo set of reference photos so that I could use them in the future, which is exactly what I'm doing now. And the first thing to say is I did a pencil sketch of the pose and the background. But then very bizarrely, as you can see from this photograph, I did the background first. It's perhaps not bizarre to most people, but I certainly would never ever start a painting by doing the background first. So that was a bit unusual in itself. I think it's quite a useful thing to do in that then it's easier for you to see the tones of the figure better against the background, so there's none of that white paper glaring at you. I know this background is fairly light in colour, but it's probably easier to judge the tones of the body better if you actually put the background in first. So that is unusual, but that was the first step of this painting. So here's the second stage photograph, and you can see that I've put in a very detailed head. It's probably not a very sensible thing to do, as we've discussed in other videos up to this point, but I wanted to get the likeness right for the model first and spent quite a lot of time doing that. It's quite a small painting, so getting the likeness with such tiny pigment brush strokes is quite a difficult thing. It's possibly quite sensible to start from the top and work from your way down, because you're not going to smudge the work as you go down the page from the top if you start at the top. But I seem to be sort of doing sort of sections of the body in a sort of overall fleshy coloured background, and then adding the shadows and the details to it as I go down. So here's the third stage, not very far on from the last one, to be honest, but you can see from that basic flesh tone, mid-tone colour, I've then started to put the shadows on and also some highlights in using white gouache, or lighter gouache, which is looking a bit chalky really, and you can see that in the face as well. Not particularly successful from that point of view, but it is starting to come together as a figure, and the tones of the shadows and the highlights are quite accurate. Maybe that's because I started by putting the background in at the beginning, but it's going okay so far. And here's the final stage that I got to, which is what you've seen already at the beginning of this video. I just wish I'd not stopped at this point really, because I think it's quite successful so far. You can see I've started to put the basic flesh tone colour again on the legs here. But then I just stopped. I must have been tired or something, but I wish I hadn't stopped, because then I wouldn't be having this angst of whether I should restart it or not and ruin it or not. So that's the painting so far. I'm now going to actually try and continue the painting and see how we go. Let's see if it does turn out to be a disaster or whether it's a bearable result at the end of it. It's very unusual because I've already signed this painting as well, which I would never do normally. I'd never normally sign a painting until the end. So this painting is a very bizarre painting in terms of my normal process. But let's try and carry on with it and see where we end up. So I'm starting in a similar way to how I think I remember I was working on the painting before, by adding some of the darker shadows to the wash that's already on the legs of the sort of flesh coloured wash. It's actually quite difficult because I can't remember the thicknesses of the paint that I was using before, because gouache you can do in a watercolour wash style or in a more sort of paint over in an opaque way, layers wise. And you'll see as I carry on, it's sort of difficult because I'm trying to get the painting right in relation to the reference photograph that I'm using, but I'm also trying to match the style of the painting that I did before, and I'm not sure that towards the end you'll see it's that successful in many ways, in that there's slightly different colour. You can see the join basically from the bit that I did before and the bit that I've finished today. Would you see the join if you didn't know that it was done in 2 sittings and I'm doing a video about it? I think you probably would, to be fair, but to be fair, it's coming along okay at this stage. I'm building up the shadows. No coincidence that the bits that I left on the painting before are the hard bits, well, the bits that I find hard anyway, the hands and the feet. So nothing like leaving myself a challenge, trying to match with what I've already done, but also trying to do some feet and hands which are pretty much central to this painting here. Going okay at this point. Trying to sort of change the colour here and introduce some sort of more pinky colours, because the flesh tone at the top half is quite yellow really, but of course feet generally tend to be pinker, and this model's hands did as well. They were quite red. Here I'm trying to darken the shadows here to match the shadows that were on the original painting, part of the painting. It's a bit difficult because, as I said, the hands are more red than the original shadows around the body. It's also done in a slightly more wet brush approach, so sort of layers of watercolour washes here than it looks like the first part of the painting was done in. Here I'm trying to add some white highlights, not because I like the white highlights, but again I'm trying to sort of match the way that it's painted, the previous parts were painted, and it starts to become a bit muddy at this point. Really, I'm losing anything that's left of the yellower skin flesh colour that was on the legs initially. I think that's partly why you can see the join here. So this is the final painting. I did tinker a little bit more with it after the end of the video sequence there. Overall, it's not as disastrous as I thought it might be when we set off on this journey of trying to finish something. But it's proved to me that it isn't very easy at all to leave something for so long and then return to it. There is a colour difference between what I was doing before and what is on the new painting. I think it is noticeable, but overall I've actually managed to complete it without ruining it entirely, I think. Thank you very much for watching. I'll put a link in the description for the Arteza gouache paints, which I really like, so that you can purchase those if you'd like. Do subscribe, do comment on these videos. I'm genuinely asking questions of other artists out there and how they do things. Okay, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks, bye.